Okay. Hello, everybody. We are back. Had a little bit of technical difficulties. That typically happens after some time. We had a pretty good streak of no technical difficulties though, so we was due for one, man. But how have you been?
Pretty good. You know, we've been really fortunate here in Georgia because normally around this time we would have seen 108 a few times. Actually, I'm not sure if it even hit 90 today. So I can't complain. Around this time of year, if anything to complain about it probably would be the heat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nah, we've had a lot of rain, so hold on. Yeah, we've. I actually just got back from Florida, little family trip. We had so I got a little sunburn on me, but
I thought you looked a little more
yeah,
bronze. Okay.
I'm definitely a little darker. My skin's peeling and all of that, so I did get some sun, but yeah, Georgia has definitely been very cloudy this summer, and really summer is about over. School's coming back right around the corner, so I guess we made it with a pretty light summer in terms of the heat.
Yeah. I think we're going to end up with two really hot weeks, and then that'll that'll be it. But your statement kind of leads into what we're going to be talking about tonight when you said the summer's almost over.
Hmm.
And I know coming into 2025, we did a session on goal setting, and it occurred to me that we're past the midpoint. We're almost in August. And I thought that this might be a good time to revisit that topic and give us some tools to hopefully end the year strong.
Okay.
We want to end it, and even for those people who may be tottering and feeling like, "Wow, 2025 has been something." And before I go any further, with that thought, I wanted to express my condolences to, as so many of us have been doing, to the family of Malcolm Jamal Warner. A lot of people have heavy hearts this week, and I had the opportunity to see him in February, and you know what an outstanding musician and talent, and he's definitely going to be missed. So
Indeed.
I wanted to kind of start it off by just throwing the question out and getting people to thinking about what were some of the goals that were set coming into this year. So that number one, and then right beside that, I want to ask the question whether or not those goals were SMART. SMART is an acronym, and we'll go through that acronym. If not by the end of today's session, I'm kind of figuring that we're going to end up dealing with this in two sessions. But that S stands for specific.
Hmm.
And I want to start there because I wonder if for some of us, the challenge that we've had as far as the whole goal setting adventure has to do with the fact that the goals that we set already were not specific enough. I'm wondering if those goals were vague. For an example, and this is a very common one, so I'm going to use it. At the beginning of the year, coming out of the Christmas holidays, one major goal that a lot of people have is to lose weight.
Hmm.
So if a person raises their hand and says, "Yeah, that was my goal to lose weight," then that's the problem. because in order for that to be a real goal, you need to say exactly how much weight you wanted to lose and by when you wanted to lose that weight.
Right.
So that's a real basic example. One of the things, and then I'm going to let you chime in. One of the things that I want to challenge, and some people who may be listening in on the various platforms, they can go ahead and attack it while I'm talking. Now, there's a bevy of experts that I've been pulling from Terry Savelle Foy, who's an expert in this area. Brian Tracy, he's a name that a lot of people are familiar with. So my first challenge is, let's see if we can get down 5 goals to conclude the year. So this were the beginning of the year, I would say, okay, what are 10 goals? Now, let's just deal with personal goals because some of us run businesses, and part of the reason why people get all twisted up is because they've got business goals and they've got personal goals and they intertwine them. And I think you need to have your goals for your business, one list for your business goals, another list for your personal goals. Personal goals would be goals that you want to establish surrounding you and your family, things that does not involve your work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say, now for some people, you might decide you're going to you're going to do your business goals. That's fine, but it might be easier for most people to deal with personal. So, but not only do I want you to list your 5 personal goals, at least 5, I want you to do it in a minute and a half because sometimes people get all bogged down because they're overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
So typically, what comes to your mind first is what you're probably most passionate about, or it may be the thing that is more pressing for you. So I'm going to let you chime in before I continue.
Yeah, specific goals. I mean, we have less than half the year left. When I think back, honestly, I don't remember what my specific goals were for the beginning of the year, which I think probably the case for a lot of people as well. Um, I do feel that I've hit a lot of things, but I do have a new set of goals that I'm pursuing. So I've been on a job search recently, um, trying to get back into that. So hoping that I land one pretty soon. So that's been just a goal of mine is to continue to apply places, while at the same time continuing my business ventures and making sure that I'm staying up to date on those. Because I think when it comes to business goals, I've gotten a lot of it started. Like, I've created the websites and, got my first customers and stuff like that. But, being realistic in the growth about it, realizing that, I'll have to have another income to supplement that until it's more established. And a goal could be to, let me think, my goal would be to have 2 more clients before the end of the year for that specific business venture. I have some other things that I've been working on, and it's kind of more good faith projects that I do think will pay off in a couple of months. But just in the time frame in which I need to, make some money, that's where you have to make some adjustments for it. So I would say that's my goal for the rest of the year at this point.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and actually, that's great. I wasn't necessarily priming you to share your own, although that's great because there's there's a lot of people who are in that transitory space all because of a lot of the things that's going on in the marketplace. And there are a number of people that I run into that they have worked for another company, but they had their own thing that they were working on, what we call a side hustle. And I think what you just shared may be very helpful for those people because now they can say, okay, while I am putting out my applications to get another gig as such, there are things that I can potentially be doing to build my own. And who knows, as you put that elbow grease into building your own, that may end up becoming a thing. You just, and so for some people, the reason why their side hustle may not be as prominent or successful as they would want it, it may have to do with the fact that they haven't really sat down and did any real goal setting around, you know.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I want to be transparent with our audience about where I am. We come on here a lot talking about finances and stuff, so I want to be transparent when there's struggles going on or when there's highs and lows in the tech industry. They say and I think it is still a strong industry, but things, especially in 2025, have been extremely different than they have in previous years. So, just with AI coming in, we've talked about that a lot. Um, and I think that's been kind of shaping the direction that a lot of tech companies are going. So it's a completely different landscape, and I think it's for anyone who's really in the job market right now. I know it's extremely tough. You're dealing with a lot of people using AI to get positions, so you're not really. It's not the same competition that you were up against before. People are using AI to lie on their resumes and stuff like that. So, trying to find a job with integrity does get a lot more difficult. Um, but that's why, I'm on the job search, but I also know that I can't 100% rely on the chance of landing a job anytime soon. So, that's why I'm continue. It's a full time job to look for a job and to continue to run my own business to make sure that keeping the lights on. So that's we're all. I know there's a lot of people in that position. Possibly more people will be in that position by the end of the year. So everyone just has to stay the course and just keep the faith.
I think I know that we have had a show or two where you specifically was providing guidance in the technology space. But I think real soon we need to put it on the calendar for us to do a show where you could just walk people through the impact of AI, in whatever way that you think makes sense. Because I still think as much attention as AI gets, there's a lot that people may not understand about the breadth of its impact,
Mm-hmm.
So not to mention robotics, there's a lot of different tentacles to all of this. A lot of different tentacles.
Yeah, there's so many different. Because I don't think. Even with me, I didn't see it making this much of an impact. Well, I've seen it making this much of an impact so quickly though is where I'm like, oh wow, it really came in strong because I think it's a combination of when people were working from home and now AI automation, all of that coming together. So there's not only AI automation, there's outsourcing. So a lot of jobs are, leaving America now that they saw that they didn't need to be in the office. Now they're like, well, we can get these jobs done by people in Costa Rica, Philippines, India. So it's no longer where you're just competing with people in your area. You're competing for jobs worldwide. And a lot of the skill sets that kind of used to set people apart, it's not so much of a gap because people have access to AI. So a lot of advantages that you may have had in the job market a few years ago, those advantages are kind of evaporated almost. So it's a whole new game out here. So it's interesting. But I mean, I'm good. I'm learning firsthand. So
And what you said is really helpful because what I know about India is that India is in terms of population, it's the largest English speaking country in the world.
mm-hmm.
And so, if for everybody that is in any kind of work that involves communication, you're right. I mean, if they can figure out how to outsource, and when and see, it's just pure basic numbers.
Mm-hmm.
There's billions of people over there. And so the idea is, well, hey, we can pay them a fraction of what we pay the American worker. And so anyway, I that's that's a conversation in and of itself.
Right.
But it kind of relates to this topic because in order for some people to set realistic goals, so I'm kind of jumping ahead that are for realistic
Mm-hmm.
in the SMART goal lineup, then people have to understand the landscape, especially if it has to do with, and for a lot of people, their goals will have to do with how they're able to provide for their family, and even if it's personal goals,
Right.
it'll still circle back to making a living, and because often the things that are on that goal list will take finances. So that's why we've had a number of shows that dealt with finances because somehow, there's a scripture that says money answers all things. Well, of course, we have to understand that in context what that scripture is basically saying. Not that money trumps love or anything like that, or that money is actually everything. It just means that pretty much in every facet of life, money is going to be involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's finances is going to come up. Now, um, so so far we said if we can come up with 5 goals. So what's a SMART goal is something specific, something measurable, something uh, earlier when we were talking about the weight loss thing, a simple metric, and that's an easy example to use.
Mm.
Okay, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. That's our measurement, 20 pounds. Okay. Um, One of the reasons why some people struggle, and I've talked about this before, and I think repetition is key when it comes to some of these. And I believe men struggle with this next thing I'm going to say more, and that is writing it down. There was a study that I think came out of Princeton that I think it went like this. They tracked 2 groups of graduates.
Mm-hmm.
One group of graduates wrote down their goals post graduation. The other group did not. The group that wrote their goals down had significantly more success. And the book that we like to read says, write the vision and make it plain. So studies show that people who write their goals down have a 42% higher chance of seeing success.
We need all those percentages.
Yeah, yeah. And I got a practical reason why the success rate goes up when we write it down. If we all think about 2025 up to this point, if you're like me, you have had some challenges in 2025. Everybody that I know have had some challenges in 2025. And what those challenges often do is they will headbutt, they will headbutt those goals that you and I have just floating around in our head and knock them out because we're putting out this fire, we're putting out this fire.
Hmm.
And next thing you get deep into July and you completely forgot about what you said you was going to do at the beginning of the year. But guess what? If you write it down, and the reason why I'm holding this up is that this little thing, and I know for a lot of people, they don't even deal with a pen and paper. That's okay. You can use your phone, and a lot of people do. The challenge is that so often people don't use their phone.
Hmm.
So yeah, we realize you can use the technology, but a lot of people aren't using the technology. So sometimes you have to come out of what you normally do and do something different in order to get a better result. So some people are saying, well, I can just use my phone, but you're not using your phone. So I'm giving you a different pathway because you're not actually using your phone to do it. Or I can use my laptop. I can use I done lost track of all the different devices people can use. If you're going to use the device, then use the device.
Hmm.
But the reason why I'm showing this is that it can easily fit in a dude's back pocket, which this is where this was in my back pocket, or uh, a young lady. This can fit in a small purse. It's not cumbersome. And you can just whip it out and jot things down. Or as far as your goals, of course, you can put it there and then look at it. Now, of course, with the phone, what's great about it is that you could probably speak to this much better than me, Dre, as a techie. You can make your phone, you can make your devices work wonders in terms of helping to support your goals. You can have them flash in your screen. I mean, I've heard some stuff. People can make it come up as reminders.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of technologies that you can use, but I mean, I think even with myself, as I've tried to keep track on my phone, it's like I would start with a to do list and I would mark things off on the to do list, but yeah, it's just something about if it's an app that you don't use regularly, then it's kind of hard to like you still have to get into a habit of using it. So it's
Right.
not like just putting something in your notes app. It might be a little bit more convenient than writing it down, but you can forget about it just as easily as you can forget about a piece of paper. At least with the piece of paper, you might randomly come across that piece of paper or your notebook and then look into it. But if you don't aren't consistently going into your notes app, then it kind of almost defeats the purpose. Like I'll be on a good streak of using my notes app and knocking things off of my to do list, adding things to it. But then if I go a week without it, like I probably haven't opened my notes app in like 2 weeks now, 2 3 weeks. So so everything. I mean, the stuff is still there. I mean, I'll open it back up and then kind of be back on top of it. But yeah, I still for a lot of important things, I write things down. I have a couple of different notebooks. That's my problem though. I have too many notebooks where I try and jot things down whenever they come to my mind just to get it out of my head. But I'm ADHD. I got a lot of disorganization, so my notes are all over the place. I'll write something down, then I won't get to it till I even got like a little chalkboard where I got things written down, knocking things off. So I try a whole bunch of different methods. It's whatever method works best for you, and it takes a lot of trial and error. So,
I think the key thing that you said is that a person has to have develop a level of consistency with it.
mm-hmm.
And perhaps for some people who want to use their technology, they may have to use their technology to remind them to use their technology. Set an alarm. And then you have to, I mean, then you have to actually have the discipline to actually do what the alarm is saying. Because
Mm-hmm.
I've got alarms and they help me because if I didn't have those alarms, I wouldn't remember to do the things that the alarm is telling me to do. But I
Mm-hmm.
have the alarm going off constantly to help remind me. And I might not remember to do it each time, but because it's a repetitive alarm, I'm going to get it some of the time. So um, the point there is write it down, write it down. And I know that for some people, like I'm more of a wordsmith. I I enjoy words, but there are other people who they see things in pictures. Now we all see things in pictures, but what I mean is for some folks, okay, let me give you a perfect example. I I'm that person who, if I was around during the 30s and 40s, I would be okay with listening to a radio broadcast of a play. I could sit there and listen to it because I'm okay with all those words. Whereas with others, they need to see the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see the movie. They want to see the action. And so why am I saying that? Because with your goals, I'm going to recommend that people add pictures to them because that's a part of the specificity. For an example, let's say that, and now I'm jumping ahead just for the sake of an example. Let's say that in September of 2006, a person says they want to be a homeowner by that time. September 15th, 2026, I plan to be a homeowner. Let's say that's the goal. And simply saying that you want to own a home then is not enough. How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Is it split level? Is it ranch? What town is it in? Do you want a quarter of an acre? Do you want acres? Do you want it to be carpeted? Because a lot of people are moving away from carpet because for some folks they feel like it's more hassle with the dust mites and all that. But anyway, be specific, and then if you can get a picture that puts you close to the house that you're interested in, then you might put that on what we call a vision board. Now, people have, different feelings about vision boards and all that. I get it. But all I'm saying is that there's something about seeing a picture of what it is that you're striving for. Even my favorite example, weight loss. If you put a picture that resembles the the person that you want to become size wise, looking at that person, looking at that image, for some people it may be an image of themselves 15 years ago. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing that image will help get you closer to where it is that you're seeking to be. You had anything you wanted to add to that?
Um, yeah, having an image of where you want to be is probably. I think it's almost like you gotta see it to believe it. So if you can picture it in your mind, if you can imagine it, then you can make it into a reality. So I think that's always the first step when it comes to setting any type of goals. So definitely make sure that you're using every bit of your imagination to achieve your goals, because you're always trying to do something that in the case of weight loss, you may have been that weight at one point, but a lot of times we're trying to get to a version of ourselves that we've never been. And so that's where the imagination comes in. So if you've never had money before, you have to picture yourself with money. And also it's not just about picturing yourself. You have to get into that mindset. You have to think about, what would I be acting like if I did have money, or if I did have the funding to do XYZ. Would I still be in the environments that I'm finding myself in now, or would I be in different environments? And then you start to put yourself in those. If you start to put your current self in those environments that you would want to be in when you're wealthy, or when you're skinny, whatever your goal may be, then that kind of helps you achieve that goal a lot faster.
One of the things that Dr. Mike Murdoch is fond of saying is that the, the number one reason why people don't achieve their goals, but more broadly are unsuccessful, is broken focus. Now, part of the reason why I suggested, since we've got less than a half a year left, part of the reason why I suggested 5 goals is because for some people, they put down so many goals that they're over stratified. So now they're going from pillar to post, trying to accomplish 20 goals. Now, we go back to the beginning of the conversation. Some people haven't hit any of the original goals going into the year. And now, for some, to make up ground, they're thinking, okay, I'm going to try to grab those goals that I had at the beginning of the year, and I'm going to add on, 12 more. And now they're trying to hit 20. And you're about to hit nothing. So here's a statement that I want to share that I hope is helpful, because I'll admit that in times past, I've been a, a person who thought that serial multitasking was a thing. But let me say this: multitask because you need to, not because of attention deficiency. So let me give an example of when we all find ourselves in a position where we have to multitask. This is a simple one. If you're driving in a major city, you are going to have to multitask. You're looking ahead, you're driving the vehicle, you're looking in your rearview mirror, you're doing multiple things in order to get from point A to point B when you're driving in a busy city. But sometimes people find themselves stuck because they've gotten into such a habit of multitasking. Some people call it busy work. So instead of just drawing one's attention to this one thing and finishing it out, okay, I'm going to open this jar, and then I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to start goofing off with this jar over here. And now you got these 13 different jars open, and nothing's about to happen because you got too many jars open at the same time. Because each jar requires X amount of attention. So that's an important challenge as we seek to be successful with our goals. You have to give it some time. Whatever that goal is, for an example, let me give you an example. So let's say that one of the goals is to take a trip. Now, first of all, to write down to take a trip, that's that's not a sufficient goal because we need to know where the trip is to. And in order for you to arrive at a successful goal, you're gonna have to do a little research. So yes, you're excited. You you took another step. You want to go to Aruba by the end of the year. Okay. Now, in order for you to go to Aruba, you're gonna have to get on a boat or a plane, which means that you need to figure out how that's gonna happen. You're gonna finance it. Like I was teasing one of my clients earlier today because she had she had skipped a couple of sessions, and I was teasing her. I said, "Oh, you must have been a part of the Bay Hive recently." Of course, for those who don't know what that is, Beyonce was in town, and the people who follow her closely, they consider it a part of the Bay Hive. And I understand that I wouldn't know for sure, but I understand that a ticket to one of those concerts is hundreds of dollars. That's what I understand. And so if a person is planning to come into town and attend a concert like that, you better count the cost because if you're coming from another state, like my cousin's wife came down, or I should say, came up from Florida. So they flew. There's a plane ticket,
Yep.
got a hotel. They had to eat while they was here, and then you got the tickets, and then you got Uber getting to and fro. So you see all those different things that has to be factored in. For some people, the reason why they haven't taken that trip yet is they haven't sat down and actually counted the cost. How much does the flight cost to get over there? You saying that you want to go to Aruba, but have you ever actually found out what a flight to Aruba actually costs? So it's just a fantasy for you because you haven't even done any homework to figure out. And the same thing for some people, it's the same thing when it comes to buying a house. Oh, okay, I want me a 5 bedroom house. Okay. Now I was sharing with somebody the other day. For the longest, I always said, wow, I want a big, fantastic house. And then it dawned on me recently. I said, you know what? That won't work out for me unless I've got somebody to clean that big, fantastic house. Because, once you get to the point in life that I am where you've got young adult offspring. I don't know if you grew up in the kind of house I did. The offspring were also the cleaners, so they would help you keep the house clean. But then once they go off to college and all that kind of stuff, and you're left with all these extra bedrooms and stuff, you got the dust accumulation, you got the baseboards, you got the chandeliers. Somebody got to clean up all that. And so again, when you make the decision that you want that big fabulous house, you better you better factor in that it needs to be clean. You have to pay taxes on it. What happens when, now I know Florida might have been a little hotter than Georgia has been recently. What happens when the AC unit goes out?
Hmm. That happened to me. I had to fix it myself. I was like, nope. I had to figure it out.
Or you put on your MacGyver,
Oh yeah, no,
huh?
I was like, let me figure it. I had to Google. I was like, well, what could be wrong? It was the capacitor, so I had to
Wait,
change
you
that.
literally did fix it yourself, or you just
Hmm.
messed around?
Nah, I really fixed it myself. I wasn't gonna pay no $1,000 for that. Nope. It did go. It went out. I was like, oh man, it was getting hot too. I was like, hold on. It didn't. It wasn't this year. Like once I turned the AC back, this happened last year or 2 years ago when it went out originally. And then sometimes after the winter, then when I comes back on, it won't start up right away. But yeah, I had to teach myself, man. I saved myself a couple $1,000 right there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because I had some family that had to replace their unit, and it was 9 G's to replace it.
Yep, nope. Not me. I was like, I was looking, I was praying. I was like, man, I hope I could figure this out. So I had to go on, went on YouTube. I was like, all right, I was saying the symptoms because it was spinning for a second, but then it wouldn't. And then they was like, okay, yeah, that just might mean that the capacitor. So mine had a cage around it too. So, and the cage was too small, so you could even when I got it open, there wasn't enough room to kind of do that. So my neighbor was able to cut it off for me, cut off the cage. So and yep, I went in there, bought the capacitor online. I think that might have been like $100, something like that. So, but way better than $900, and changing it wasn't really too bad. So I learned a little something, and yeah, saved myself a whole bunch of money in the process. So
Wow, wow. And you just what I like about what you just shared is I always tell my sons especially, if you're going to spend time online and watching videos, please watch some videos that can either A, put some cash in your pocket, or watch some videos that will save you some cash. Just don't spend all your time watching nonsense. Don't spend all your time video watching dulling the senses.
mm-hmm. Yeah, gotta make sure that you're educating yourself. That's all I watch is pretty much educational YouTube. That was kind of my trick. I was like, I do love YouTube, so I was like, all right, let me at least make sure that I'm learning something. So I put on something about history, the economy, stuff like that. That'll just be playing in the background. So and now that's just my entertainment. So I'm always getting some type of education.
Now, here's something that I wanted to share that might be valuable for those people who are working on business goals. Of course, what I'm going to say kind of plays into the concept of the business plan. So Terry Savelle Ford was sharing that when Bishop T.D. Jakes was looking for the finances to build out his church, he went to the banks, and the banks said, the kind of money that you're asking for, I mean, what's the plan? What do you have to support asking for the amount of money that you're asking? So they told him to come back with a 7-year plan. Well, I think within a week, he came back to them with that 7-year plan. And listen, that 7-year plan was worth $45 million to he and the people in his congregation. So for some business people, the thing that's standing in between you and the finances that you need to run your enterprise is your plan. And notice they wanted his written plan. There we go with the writing thing again. They wanted his written plan because, of course, most of us know that when it comes to business, they don't have time to hear you rattle off your plan verbally.
Right.
They need to see it in writing. And so, I mean, that's a session unto itself of finding the people that you need to help you to put together uh, a proposal. But the point is that he knew what it was that he wanted to accomplish so that it didn't take him a whole month to come back to them. They said, come back to us in a week and show us your 7-year plan. He had a plan. So for some of us, the challenge is to get a plan. Get a plan. That's the difference between where you think you're supposed to be and the reason why you're not there. No plan.
Indeed.
And as it pertains to goal setting, here's a key word. Earlier, we used the word consistency, and that's an important word to us because that was the name of our, I guess you can say, our initial shows. It was on that topic of consistency.
Mm-hmm.
But part of the reason why some of us haven't seen the results that we want to see with the goals is that there's no commitment. There, there's no commitment. Now, Ray, talk to me about what kind of things people do when they're committed.
Let's see. When somebody is truly committed to something, they it's really more about what they don't do. I think it's about not um they don't take the easy way out when it comes to commitment, or true commitment doesn't take the easy way out. um True commitment doesn't make excuses. um True commitment also, it doesn't it doesn't waver really. That's the thing. Commitment and consistency, you can't waver when it comes to those things. And a big thing about commitment is sometimes it's indefinite, but you have to continue to show up. Like you don't know it, you don't know how long you're committing to something for in a lot of cases, but you have to kind of, it's more of an internal commitment. Like you have to commit to yourself and like know that you're not gonna miss any days, you're not gonna sleep in, or do things that are gonna jeopardize your overall goal. um yeah, so it's really just about not jeopardizing it. So you have all of the potential to do everything in the world but what you committed to, and then you have to make that decision every time. It's almost a decision to do it, to do what you say that you were going to do, regardless of what happens. So I think that's what I view commitment as.
That's good, man. I mean, I think based upon the things that you said, you've helped a lot of people. I mean, this podcast is an example of commitment because, as we said before, there are people who are looking at us and they've been planning to do a podcast for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
But you can't do it until you've done the first episode. You haven't done the first episode, and yeah, we've had technical problems. Uh, there are podcasts out there more polished, but it's a process that we've committed to. And so it's one thing to get that initial boost and motivation. We hope that what we're sharing with you will motivate you to get started. But you know what commitment is? Commitment is what you need to keep going after the motivation wanes. And that's, in a lot of relationships, whether it be romantic or whatever, friends. Sometimes friends, you meet a new friend and and you're vibing. But then after a while, unless those friends are intentional about doing different things, and before you know it, the motivation is lost. And now, okay, am I still interested in being this person's friend? Because now I'm off the high. I'm off that initial high that I was on. Commitment is staying power. Commitment is staying power. So I want to challenge us this time around to have the staying power, to work past those people who are hating on you, those people who are your doubters. Unfortunately, sometimes those people may be in the same household. Oh, you say you're going to do this, and that person says, "Oh, BS. You've been saying that for the last 3 years. I'll see it when you do it." And so, are you going to shrink back, or are you going to step up? One of the taglines that I see a lot around, and at some point I think I've even used it, be the change.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us have seen that. And what that means to me is that the change starts with the person that says that they want to hit that goal. And a lot of times what stifles people in accomplishing their goal is they're so focused on how much change they need to see from all these other people. You and I can't control their change, but we can control our change.
Right.
We can control our change. And sometimes the change we need to make is exactly what's necessary for us to hit our goal. Because if we make our goal accomplishment contingent upon those people changing, then forget about your goal because they're not going to change, but you can. Now, here's one other thing I want to drop in there, and this ties into we got about 5 months left in the year, and if you do this, and of course, when I say you, I'm talking to our audience,
Mm-hmm.
whatever they may be. Um, for some people, me putting the challenge out to identify 5 goals, for some people that's hard. So here's what we're going to do. I want everybody to identify one thing they're going to see through for 30 days. So I'll give you an example. This is an easy one because it's in an area that most people can relate to on some level or another. Let's say that, because I know people, they've been trying to cut down on the smoking. Now, most people struggle with going cold turkey, meaning just giving it up. And for some people, the goal to stop smoking has not succeeded because most people can't just give it up cold turkey. So maybe the 30-day challenge for a person who's been smoking 10 blunts a day, maybe for that person, the 30-day challenge might be, okay, I'm going to smoke 5 blunts or less for 30 days. Now that sounds like a goofy goal. But that same person who's been trying to stop smoking altogether hasn't seen hasn't seen any success because they're going from 10 to 0. They're trying to go from 10 to 0. And what I'm saying is maybe now of course there are systems that you're going to have to put around that commitment. For an example, in a different episode, I was sharing that a family member had decided to stop drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that family member realized that in order to be successful with that goal, he had to stop hanging out with the people that he used to get drunk with. So you have to you have to support you have to support the goal properly. So it's good. That's part of the commitment part. But to try to if you if you're addicted to soda, which some people are addicted to soda, they have to have their beverage of choice with every meal. And that's a lot of sugar. That's a whole episode. That's a whole episode right there. Man.
Yep.
That's a lot of sugar. But we have been with people lunch or if you had a colleague, because that's an example of a person that you might have been able to see that. You notice whenever y'all go to lunch, they got them a carbonated beverage. Even breakfast time, they've got a carbonated beverage. So that sounds like, to me, that sounds like an addiction. So that person, again, if you drinking that many sodas, you're probably going to have a hard time just going from 3 sodas, 4 or 5 sodas a day to 0 sodas at all. So you might say, okay, I'm just gonna have a soda for lunch. Now you're gonna be shaking those other times, but you're gonna have to try to put something in place to replace that soda. Maybe that'll be the time that you meditate. You have to create something positive to try to replace whatever that habit you had. And here's something else I'm going to add that I think is going to help a lot of people. You may need to identify an accountability partner because with your past goals, it was just you. And so if you backed out, it was just you and what you wrote down. But now, if you get you an accountability partner and said, hey, and for some people that might be their spouse, their best friend. For others, it might be somebody like a counselor, because depending upon what the goal is, you might need somebody that is not intimately into your business like that, but who can just hold you accountable to your goal. It depends on what the goal is. But for most of us, we're better off with some accountability partner, somebody that can encourage us and help to keep us 100 on what we said we were trying to accomplish. And then perhaps while they're doing that for you, you might be able to do that for them if they desire for you to provide accountability for them as well.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Dre? I said a lot.
Yeah, I think going back to something you said earlier, I think really a lot of people struggle with trying to quit multiple addictions at the same time. So, how you were saying, trying to give up soda and trying to give up smoking at the same time, it's like, okay, now you're getting rid of all of your vices at one time, and you have nothing to, your body go into shock. So it's um, like with me, I've been trying to cut back on a lot of sugar. And so I don't drink coffee in the morning. I'm a chocolate milk drinker. So I used to drink a lot, like a big cup of chocolate milk. So instead of saying, okay, I'm not drinking it at all, because that's like my morning starter, so I just shrunk that down to a smaller cup. So just trying to get less chocolate. So, you got to be methodical in how you're going to get rid of certain addictions. I was able to give up soda. So, I no longer buy, bottles of soda, cans of soda, stuff like that. I'll have one every now and then when I go out to dinner with the family or something, but cut that down way a lot. In place, I took lemonade. I drink lemonade for my flavored stuff, but I get a lot less of that as well. So it's all steps for me. Just cutting out sugar little by little, because I mean, some of the things I've read about sugar, I used to be someone who I could watch a documentary about something like the meat industry and still not have a problem eating a burger or anything. But just the more that I learn about the effects of sugar and stuff, and just like, they're like, if you got sugar in your skin, then that's aging. If you got sugar in your brain, that's dementia. Just a whole bunch of stuff. Sugar in your teeth is cavity. So it's just like, all right, it's as I'm getting older, that stuff is starting to hit a little harder in terms of like when I'm thinking about my future health and my future self. Um, and so that's helped me gradually, cut some of the things that are more harmful out of my life. And it gets very boring though, because it's like, okay, I know I can't have as much sugar, and so I used to eat cookie dough all the time, and so I'm cutting that out a little bit more. And it's like cookies are my favorite snack, so it's like, oh well. And you can't. One thing a lot of people do, that's you can't reward yourself with the bad habit that you're trying to quit. So you can't go a couple months without cookies, being like, okay, to reward myself, I get a cookie. That's very counterproductive, and I do that sometimes. But we got to take small steps, and those are some of the things that I struggle with. I'm still trying to get that under control, and at the same time, you got to balance it with exercise as well. So it's like, maybe you don't got to give up everything cold turkey, but it's like, okay, if you're not willing to give it all up, then you got to do something extra. So you got to do a couple extra push-ups, a couple extra sit-ups, just to help balance you out. I'm not saying that just because you're working out means you can eat whatever you want, but you got to have a little give and take there when it comes to setting goals. So that comes to weight loss, and just overall health. So cholesterol, salt. I need to, all of everything that we pretty much eat is bad. And that used to be I used to be like, well, if they're selling it to us, then that means that it shouldn't be that bad. But as I've grown older and just know that the government doesn't necessarily caring about your health or whatever you put into your body, that's your own autonomy. So you have to be the responsible person. So just because it's on the shelves doesn't mean that it won't kill you.
A- Amen to that.
So,
Amen to that. Because unfortunately, some people are just some companies, and the people who run those companies, it's just all about shareholder value. So they'll do whatever they can to increase the shareholder value so the shareholders will continue to contribute and keep their company going. And so they'll do anything to support that. That's not compassionate capitalism. I don't endorse that, but a lot of that goes on, you know.
it's the world we live in. I mean, nobody. We've said this before. No one has your best interest in mind. They're trying to market to you in the best way possible. And so since sugar's so addictive, they want to put it in everything. So to make sure that you come back and buy it again. And it tastes delicious. So it's like you really are it's very hard to put it down. And it's like yeah, some people will shame other people for an addiction that they may have, whether it's alcohol or some other drug, and then they don't even realize that you're addicted to sugar. So it's
Yeah,
like that's why you can't really point your finger at other people's. Everyone has their vices that they're struggling with, and just because yeah, I have mine as well, so I'm no better. Like you fall, just you people think I'm always of there's no sin worse than another sin, or what is that saying? I don't exactly know, but all sins are sins basically. So I don't see just cause you like, oh well, I didn't kill anybody, but you're consistently telling lies. I don't see that as any as any better. I think that.
pathological liar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So I just see that nobody is completely absolved of sin, and you think that you're better because you're not doing it is bad, or you're trying to compare yourself to somebody. Be like, well, at least I'm not addicted to a drug, or at least I'm not addicted, but you're still addicted, and so you have your own vices, so you're not perfect. Everybody has their shortcomings, and we have to be understanding of that, and that's why I can't judge anybody. It's literally not your job to judge anybody on this planet. Whatever they're doing, you may not like it, but it's still not your place to judge them.
yeah, yeah. So, two last thoughts, because I know, as you shared at the outset, that we were going to be up against time on this platform. Something that I heard that I don't think I had ever heard before, and you all have heard, and I recommend that you check out her books. Terry Savelle Foy. Uh, she, like I said, she's one of the leaders in this space as far as goal setting and so forth. She said that, well, she put up the challenge to not only write out your goals. Now I'm going back to the five goals.
Mm-hmm.
So on one hand, I'm challenging all of us to come up with one thing that we're going to seek to see through for the next 30 days. And for some of us, we might start fresh August 1st to make it clean.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be one of your five, or it may just be something separate. Because for some people, they've been so unsuccessful with goal setting. This if they can just get this one out of the mud, and don't make it so complicated that you can't possibly hit it. Make it something that you can actually hit, so you get some
Some momentum.
momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But here's something that Terry said: with those five goals that you put down, she challenged. Now this might be your challenge. She challenged to write those five goals down for the next 30 days. Now, as an educator, I know that there's a power that we tap into when we actually write something down. And there's been some good science that shows that something happens between, and by the way, the science says that there's an extra connection between physically writing it versus typing it.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, I would have to go back to my notes to see who said that, but I remember reading that some good science on that. So the science also says that you increase your connectedness to the goal by writing it out for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
So for some people who struggle with commitment, there's a new level of attachment to it because you've been writing this down for 30 days. Okay. So hopefully we've said some things. We're past the mid-year mark, and a lot of us either have fallen by the wayside with those original goals that we had entering into 25. Well, for some of us, maybe you're going to start fresh tomorrow morning. Others will say, okay, I'm going to start fresh August 1st, and I'm going to hit it hard with those, with my 5 goals for the remainder of this year. The idea is that those people who plan have a higher level of success than those people who just wander through life. And so our desire is to see us all in 2005, 25, as strong as possible.
Indeed. Yeah, nah, I know. Yeah, actually, the Google Meets gave us a little extra time. I don't know. Normally, it says 5 minutes right at the hour mark, but we've been on for a little over that, so I don't exactly know when it was supposed to shut off. But yeah, I think what you said about writing it down does it registers a little bit different in our brain. I had actually one of my language arts teacher. It was actually my football coach too. He was telling us that when we pay physical money, we actually our minds register that as like actual pain as opposed to when we pay something digital. And so it's just like I think that's something kind of in connection to when you're writing something down physically. Like I think it just registers differently in our minds, and you know, because when you want to spend some cash, it's like, oh, all right, this is kind of painful. But when you tap to pay, you know, you like, oh, I ain't really even think about that. So I
It's
think,
true.
yeah, I think just some psychological things that kind of will help you do, you know, achieve your goals really, or you know, make smarter decisions, or maybe just really register what's reality as opposed to what's kind of abstract, as I would say. Like money can be abstract. Things in your text messages in your phone can be abstract if it's not directly in your face. So we gotta have we gotta in a world where there's so many distractions, we gotta take advantage of all of the small tricks that we can in order to make sure that we're achieving our goals and getting the things done and achieving the goals that we said that we set out to do.
The last thing I want to say, and here's part of the reason why I think I'm really cheering hard for us all to see success with our goals, because success generates trust. So, from a practical standpoint, let's say that you hire a company to come in and paint the entire interior of your home. If that painting company does an amazing job, when it comes time for a refreshing of paint, I'm going to trust that company to come in and do it for me again. And success like that garners trust in so many other arenas and areas. So for some people, the reason why they may not be seeing the opportunities that they want to see is because people may not be aware of their ability, or you haven't given them a reason to give you their trust, because success begets trust. That's my that's my final say.
All right, I think that's a good place to end it. Yeah, we won't get cut off abruptly this time, so let's End it right there. Thank you guys so much for joining us another episode. We appreciate you continuing to tune in. Please
Absolutely.
like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you guys next
And tell them
Tuesday.
they will be subscribing on share your website.
WeTheSauce.com. Yeah, all of these episodes are on WeTheSauce.com. They are also on YouTube. But yeah, check out the website where there's a lot of other content on there. Got some other things coming on there soon as well. So yeah, just be on the lookout for all of that, and follow us on social media in order to stay up to date on the newest updates. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in 2 weeks as
Hey,
always.
maybe by this time next year we who knows, we might be interviewing somebody like Meg the Stallion. You never know.
You never know. Yeah, we got some. We got some people who we gonna be interviewing soon. I definitely we got some things in the works for that.
All right.
Yeah, we may be getting some more sophistication with the podcast as well. So we've been doing it real makeshift, but yeah, we got some high quality stuff coming up in the pipeline. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
All right, thank you guys. We'll catch you next time.